I didn't know much about Steiner education. In fact, I was generally thinking it was in Wally World category without any actual information supporting that view. But I got caught up in the enthusiasm of a community group which was looking for something else other than what was on offer through the territory schools. I remember attending quite a large meeting of people. We're looking at 30 years ago now. But there was general consensus we needed a different sort of school for kids. But there was no consensus about what sort of school. And out of that, someone started the idea of discussing philosophy of education. And during those meetings, we got introduced somewhat to Montessori and then somewhat to Steiner education. And I think a group of people generally thought Steiner education sounds pretty good, actually. Its objectives were much more along, I'll use the word humanist, but I don't know if that's got other connotations, but definitely about thinking about the whole person that we're educating instead of, educating kids to be cogs in the system. From my memory, that's a genesis of the school, that group of people who met for quite a while and end up really focusing on Steiner education. And I was a teacher. Well, I wasn't a teacher at that stage, but I had 5 years of experience bush teaching. So my mind was fairly centered on teaching. And I guess I was probably thinking at that stage, well, if nothing else, I get a good look at a different way of bringing teaching. But I think the general enthusiasm of the group was that gave the impression that, yeah, there's a good chance that whatever we do, we're going to succeed in this. And it was in no small measure supported by early contact with the NT government and a guy called Brian Chase within the department. And it would seem that the government of the day was pretty keen to get, I don't know if they were thinking of alternative education so much as starting schools which weren't government schools. But whatever it was, our goals coalesced and we got quite a lot of support from the current NT CLP government.
So they were keen and we were keen. The federal government, as I recall from the start, wasn't particularly keen, but then that changed with a change of government, as I recall.
I can't recall paying much attention to what the federal government was saying. There were, I think there were some ideological lines within the government, and I'm talking about the territory government now, which were, as a Conservative government, they were definitely looking to start some different schools. Because later on, when there was a change of government and the Claire Martin government got in, there was a sudden shutting of doors to the whole idea. And while they didn't completely close, they didn't lock, we had to reopen them and spend a fair bit of time trying to convince the Labor government that there was an alternative to supporting, you call it state school system, even though we're a territory, I guess.
Now, Bill, you were, correct me if I'm wrong, the first chairman of the Alice Springs Steiner Association.
Much to my surprise, really, because we have to credit Peter Tate, I think. I mean, lots of people had to be credited, obviously, but Peter Tate was a character who was quite prepared to put in all the yards it needed. He's the guy who could sit down behind his computer at night and do the hard yards. And he didn't go from there to stepping into a chair role. He proposed that I do it. And as I said, somewhat to my surprise, but I was involved enough in the group that I kind of happily accepted this proposition.